I'm finally talking about how angry Democrats can get online and why they get angry online. Because I think that it is not a simple answer of just they're overly sensitive and they start yelling about their beliefs when questioned about them online. I feel like Republicans get equally angry about their beliefs, but because they are often projecting themselves as loud-spoken, angry, intense, all of these things that are not necessarily what you'd think of when you think of a Democrat. When they get angry online, it is almost expected because Democrats are always supposed to be so, for lack of a better word, demure and mindful. I think that when they start yelling about things online, people perceive them as odd because they are straying from the expected decorum of a Democrat. There's always been an understanding in the Democratic Party that you cannot be angry, loud, obnoxious. Like when they go low, we go high, like seeing ourselves as above the other party for some reason. And I say ourselves, not that I'm a Democrat, because I'm not, I'm an independent, but just, them versus us. There's kind of a way of looking at these Republican commentators as irrational or less intelligent because they're using aggressive language to get their points across. And I think that it's actually it's a detriment to Democrats that we cannot use that kind of fiery language. Why do I keep saying we? That they can't use that kind of fiery language to talk to people in a way that they will maybe resonate with more strongly than if they're just trying to debate reasonably and rationally. I think that Democrats have been, shooting themselves in the foot by creating messages that are so carefully crafted and with so much detail that people ignore them. The whole idea that Trump has policy but that Kamala had no policy, I think comes from the fact that Trump's policies were communicated in very strong, simple-worded language that was very easy to understand, but also just was conveyed in a way that people could relate to. I think that the Democratic message has always been we are going to present our arguments in a very intelligent and reasonable way. And I think that that can often come across as talking down to or purposely obstructing the message, making people feel stupid because they can't understand what you're saying. I think a lot of it is that feeling. And I think in general, Democrats have a negative feeling towards Republicans, not just because of what they believe, but because there is a perception of ignorance and stupidity in a lot of cases. And this has slipped out when Biden has said things about Republicans, when Hillary Clinton said things about Republicans. There has always been a talking down to by the general public, especially towards conservatives, Republicans, that I think has only done bad things for the Democratic Party. I don't know how anyone would expect the Democratic Party to win people over when there is a history of calling a certain group like the basket of deplorables, I think it was, or I don't even remember the words that Biden used when he was talking about Republicans. There's that whole thing, there was a whole speech where he was defending Kamala, I believe. There was a feeling that he had said some things that were really uncalled for. But it ended up, overall, all of this language ended up making people feel as though the Democratic Party was not trying to represent the whole country, but was just trying to represent the coastal elites, the educated, the people who are going to colleges, and not just any colleges, but colleges that are meaningful, that matter. I think that there is a hierarchy of education in this country. I feel as though the Democrats look down on schools in the middle of the country that are state schools that might not necessarily be the highest ranked schools, but still produce really wonderful students. And I think that a lot of Democrats look past that, and a lot of Republicans too, when they think of the educated, when they think of these coastal elites, it's because they're assuming that these people have gone to mostly like Ivy League schools or like gotten the best education possible, but that's not necessarily true. Either way, because there's this expectation of Democrats to be very intelligent, but to be intelligent in a way that kind of puts Republicans down, to put conservative like people down, the reason why Alexander Hamilton founded the Electoral College is because he didn't believe that the average person could make decisions for themselves, let alone for the country. And I feel like for a while we were kind of getting away from that when we thought that people were capable of making their own decisions. But now there's this kind of sense, I feel, that Democrats are trying to, I don't know, completely ignore the fact that not all of the country has a college education and that it doesn't actually matter, because everyone should be able to make decisions about their country, whether or not they're the most educated ever. Because you can have family values, you can have religious values, you can have any sort of value without getting a college education. Like, you can be very, very good at what you do without ever having a bachelor's degree. But anyway, I think that because Democrats have this tendency to talk down to Republicans and conservatives, I feel like there is a pushback from Republicans and conservatives to kind of poke at Democrats and liberals to be like, oh yeah, your college education didn't actually tell you what you needed to know for the real world. And the real world is not the bubble that you grew up in. And I feel like it's kind of a defense mechanism when someone says, you're not smart, you're not doing well enough in your life, you should have gotten a college education because otherwise your life is wasted. I think it's very easy for the people who that statement is directed at to go, actually no, I'm fine, you're the idiot, you're being mean, why are you saying these things? And that can often translate to online bullying as a way to push back against that narrative. Because if someone says that you're stupid, you're instantly going to recoil, be really angry, and be like, okay, so you're also ugly. And then when you're called ugly, that can translate into a lot of anger, and you're no longer the reasonable, rational, educated person that you were when you started the argument. Because if you're called ugly or stupid, or you can't actually have opinions because you're a woman, then the instant response is to lash out and get very angry. I think that it's kind of a never-ending cycle of disagreement, because just to recap, you have Democrats who are stating their beliefs as wonderful, intellectual, high-minded, good for everyone, and then they talk down to Republicans by saying things like, you're the basket of deplorables, you're uneducated, you're stupid. And then those people go, well, you're ugly, and you also don't know what the real world is like because you've lived in a privileged bubble your entire life. And then the Democrats that is directed at go, I'm so angry. And then they do stuff like the 4B movement and things where it's just, or like what people consider like angry feminists, or even like the more extreme kind of Antifa political language of like smash capitalism, destroy the system. But then also like Republicans have that too, but then it's just because people are so used to liberal Democrats being like reasonable, rational humans that when they suddenly speak out, it's like terrifying and weird. I don't know, I feel like there has to be more balance, because if we don't stop one, talking down to people, which is probably the biggest thing, we should realize that when you are debating in a political debate, you're not just talking to your base, you're talking to the entire country, and you will never get support from the entire country if you act like half of the country is stupid and can't understand you, because it feels very purposely hidden, the policies. Like, you shouldn't have to have a college education to understand what they want you to vote for, because if they're using like super crazy legal language and then you don't understand what they're talking about, suddenly it's you're too stupid to understand, and that was kind of the whole point all along. But also we want you to vote for us, because if you don't, you're deplorable and ignorant. It makes no sense. It really makes no sense. And I'm struggling because a lot of people are like, but why don't they just vote for the right thing? And it's like, the right thing has been telling them that they don't deserve to understand your policy. I'm just tired. I'm really tired of it. I'm tired of the American political system. I'm tired of people getting angry at each other, and I know it's like, we all need to get along, we all need to hold hands, let's all hug it out, whatever. But it really feels to me like the system that we were in, that we are actively in, which fortunately we have another 4 years of break from. I am so tired by the political debates and political discourse online. I know that I'm contributing to it by having my ranting podcast where I just like yell at you guys about things that I care about. But there's so many people who are angry on both sides. But I feel like when it's a Republican, it's like expected because they have a more intense way of communicating. But when it's a Democrat, it's so outside of the norm that it's like distressing for people to see. Like, how is it that you are so angry because you're supposed to be a reasonable and rational person, because that's what your party demands of you? I don't want to read hundreds of pages of policy. I'm too tired. I have my own job. I have things that I need to take care of in my own life. And while it would be absolutely wonderful for me to be able to sit down and read it and understand it, it's not practical. If someone just yelled like 6 things at me, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this, 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 and then we're going to do this, and then everything will be perfect. Your life will be good. I feel like I'd appreciate that a lot more. Because what Democrats are trying to do right now is like word dump at people during debates. And it's not effective. We live in a very fast-paced, responsive system right now. The internet has made us this way. I do not have the capacity right now to sit through multiple speeches about what your policy is. I want bullet points. I want a summary. I am tired, and I think everyone is tired of this. I really think that Democrats will start losing votes if they do not update their way of talking so that everyone can understand. I think the way that they do it right now is very exclusionary, which should be the entire opposite of their platform. But I think that this cycle of talking down to having someone get like angry and then call you names and then getting super triggered, I think this whole cycle is just going to continue until something changes. And I hope the thing that changes is that people start communicating succinctly in a understandable way that people can actually do something with. Because right now the system is not working, and it's really frustrating for me. Okay, that's all I have. That's all I have for today. I'm really tired. It's the holiday season. I'm going to try to release all of these things like in a timed way so that I don't have to be there for it. But starting in the new year, I'm going to try to do things in a more organized and structured way. I'm trying to get my video quality down. I'm trying to get video editing software. I'm going to try to do more with like my podcast and how that sounds. I'm working on getting my podcast up on Spotify. It's already up on Apple Music. And obviously I'm posting clips to my TikTok. So however you engage with my podcast and my YouTube and my TikTok, just know that there's some other things that you can also view. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. And I will see you soon. Yeah.